Where did that come from?
That was a song recommended by Tree.
Oh, Tree. All righty. And Tree, will allow everybody tell Tree what she missed today. So when you see her. She got it by mental telepathy somewhere along the line. I want to welcome you today. If you're on the live stream watching us, no matter where you are or whatever you're doing, you are a part of our spiritual community this morning. And we do welcome you wholeheartedly. Today is the second in the theme series for this month called Silence. And the need and desire for all of us to have some time in the quiet when we're leading such frenetic lives is really, really important. I think it's more important today than it ever has been. There are so many different ways to look at this talk title today, Be Here Now. Could be construed as an admonition to pay attention to what's going on around us. And the tendency of some of us is to plan what to say next when we are supposedly in conversation with someone. So we miss the nuances and the subtleties of perhaps what our companion might be trying to tell us. Ernest Holmes tells us that the most intimate and highest form of communication is conversation. And for us to take the time to share our feelings and who we are with someone else is one of the greatest gifts that we can give one another. We can then come to our conversations with time to share and not time to kill. I heard an interesting turn of phrase recently, emotional organizing. What the person was talking about was the cleansing of the clutter of one's mind so that really important information has a space to present itself in our day-to-day existence. Michael Beckwith says that we have to spend time in the now present moment so that we can develop our relationship with God at a deeper level. If we have an underdeveloped relationship with God, we will have an underdeveloped good in our lives. And that's just the way it is. Of course, the precursor to a developed relationship with God is for us to truly know ourselves. And if you haven't already figured this out, it takes some effort to really know who we are. As Joyce pointed out in her creative thought this morning, who I am is not what I've been told I am by the nuns or the priests that I grew up with in the Catholic Church. Who I am is not my parents' idea of who I should be. Who I am is not predicated on being married with 2.5 children. That doesn't come into play in this paradigm. Who I am is that intrinsic part of me. What does my heart long for? What is my highest hope? Not only for myself, but for the people that I have in my circle of influence that I love. What is the highest hope that I have for them? Now, Ernest says that hope is something that we should set aside. He calls it the subtle illusion and the unconscious compromise. But I think sometimes when we first come to this teaching, we come here with hope in our heart. We come here hoping that there is going to be a changed life experience of some kind. And because maybe we've been told by somebody who has been doing this for a while. Friday, I went to Santa Barbara to a beautiful resort called the Bacara Resort and Hotel. It's close to the water. It's on the north end of Santa Barbara in Goleta. And it was one of those, Saturday, I don't know if you noticed, it was one of those idyllically beautiful Southern California days. It was clear. You could see all the islands off the coast of Santa Barbara, and the greens were greener, and the sky was bluer. And my traveling companion was one of my favorite people in the whole wide world. And driving in a car, one has to be truly present, especially the driver. That would be me. And while the beauty of our surroundings was not lost on me, what struck me so poignantly is the pleasure that I felt at being in the present moment with my friend and enjoying his company without the distractions of other people or stuff all around me. We haven't had that for a very long time. And ours was a conversation made in heaven. It was just so wonderful. You see, no one other person can be responsible for our shifts in consciousness. Even the Buddha told his followers at the end of his life that they were responsible for their own salvation. And at this event, I saw so many people I knew. I didn't expect to. I didn't actually know what it was all about. I was there to help celebrate my friend Reverend Nancy Woods from the Granada Hills Center, who had been honored. And when I got there, one of the first people I saw was Celeste Yarnell, and she was also receiving an award. Celeste Yarnell, she and her husband Nazim were the producers of the movie Femme. Some of you might have come here to see it at the center. And she was receiving an award for her work in the film industry supporting women. And she's an amazing person. And the moment we saw each other from across the room, she came moving toward me because she didn't know anyone there. And she was so grateful to be able to see someone that she knew and could talk to me. What struck me is the number of women there who were in our religious science movement. I mean, I don't know why it struck me so poignantly, but it did. Women who are doing such great root work through the auspices of their practitioner practice, and it was wonderful to reconnect with many of them too. Many of them were from Agape. Actually, the hostess, Tia, and the mistress of ceremonies was also an Agape practitioner. They didn't become practitioners to keep this teaching to themselves. This is what was the beauty about what I heard from all of those women who were on the dais. They became practitioners so they could share their wisdom and understanding of principle with other people. Someone once said that most of our prayer is concentrated worrying. And I hear that often, even with the most seasoned religious scientists. So Joyce alluded to that in her creative thought this morning as well. It's the negative self-talk that we have. It's concentrated worrying. And it really is, through repetition and with emotion, it is a negative way to pray, if you will. We've grown up believing that if I tell you I'm worried about you, then that denotes care and concern for your welfare. Well, find something more constructive to do on my behalf. I would really rather not have anyone worrying about me. Wouldn't you all? I mean, wouldn't you want to be able to hear someone say, I've been thinking the most wonderful thoughts about you today. Not, I've been worrying about you. All of a sudden I think, well, do I have something that they need to worry about? And then I begin wondering. Our worrying about anyone or anything, our children, our parents, our job, money, relationships, has never contributed anything to the greater good of that person or situation. Never, ever, ever, ever. If there are challenges in life, we have the tools to see ourselves through these challenges. And every crisis that has ever presented itself in my personal life was there for my soul growth. It was for me to look at something about who I am and to find a greater value of what I know intrinsically and to move on with life. My friend David Bruner always said, never let a good crisis go to waste. It will make us something we're meant to be. Never let a good crisis go to waste. It will make us something we are meant to be. And when we look at it from that perspective, it's really not what somebody's doing to me. That's that first kingdom victim consciousness. And we don't want to go there. We really want to be in the third kingdom where things are solved and where we use principle in our lives in order for us to have a changed experience. The women receiving the awards, which incidentally were not in a plaque or statue form like they usually are, a vase that's engraved or whatever it is that they usually do. Each woman was presented with a beautiful rhinestone tiara. Some more elaborate than others, but everyone wore their tiara with great pride. They also received flowers and some very practical gifts as well. And one of the women said, I'm wearing my tiara all week, and I defy anybody to ask me why I'm wearing the tiara because I'm going to tell them. What was incredibly apparent to me was the soft, quote unquote, power of the room. Yes, there were husbands and brothers and male friends there to support and witness these awards, but the power of these women was in the quiet way that they all went about changing the world by their gentle yet powerful efforts. Every woman that was there was nominated by somebody else who had observed the good that she had done in the world. And for some of them, it was a huge surprise that they would be considered for such an honor. More than one woman in the initial panel discussion mentioned about staying in the present moment, being here now, which facilitated their best work. And I think that that's that place where we're most in touch with spirit, most in touch with the God presence within. And another thing that I noticed is that none of these women needed the approval of these other people. They were humble, and yet their work would continue, whether in the forefront or behind the scenes. The work was infinitely more important than the award. I loved that about this whole day. They were all living a free life of self-approval. A free life of self-approval. I think that's something that we aspire to. While receiving the award was wonderful for all of them, none of them really needed it to feel validated. It was a busy week. Wednesday and Thursday, I spent 12-hour days with about 19 other people down at the airport for the Education Summit. And our job was to distill the best practices of those who'd come before in a Santa Rosa meeting that had happened a couple of months ago, as to what the education for ministers would look like in the future. And being in the environment with professional facilitators required everyone in the room to be here now. It was such an incredible experience because I was so focused on what was going on and what the facilitators were trying to impart and what the other people in the room were saying. I totally understood why at the end of the first day I went to bed at 8:30 that night, because it was from that. It's so challenging to stay in the present moment. The mind goes all sorts of places and does all sorts of weird things. I totally understand the concepts of creative thinking and critical listening, because that can't happen if one is distracted and trying to multitask. The attention was so totally focused. It was quite remarkable. Our job was not to do anything to make something happen. It was made very clear at the outset of our workshop that it was God's job to make it happen. Our job was to simply be the facilitators of helping to make it, make what needed to be known. There was an implied covenant with the Holy Spirit to do nothing but to be in the moment to such an extent that whatever needed to be revealed could be revealed, and whatever needed to be healed could be healed. We solidified our faith as a group by standing in a new place of receptivity. And I think that that's what really happens in being here now in the present moment. We are in a place of total receptivity because there's no past and there's no future. There is only the now moment. That's what being here now means to me. When I'm quiet and open to Spirit's voice through me, I am in a new place of receptivity. In the car on the way back, I asked my friend, "Do you have some cause célèbre that you're interested in politically or ecologically?" He said, "No." So I asked him, I said, "Do you ever feel the need to do something more?" His answer was incredibly helpful and very revealing. He said, "Look, we're ministers." He's kind of gruff sometimes. He said, "We're ministers. Our ministry is our cause. We are changing lives one at a time every day. Somewhere, somehow, someone got better for having been at our center or in our classes. That is our cause." And I knew as he spoke that it was true. There is never a prayer that goes unanswered. Somewhere, someone got better. You know, I'm interested in the title of the class that Reverend Joyce and Reverend Sandra are teaching. as effective prayer. As opposed to what? Ineffective prayer? I'm not sure that kind of really says what the class is about, because there is no prayer that goes unanswered if the intention behind it and the emotion behind it is clear. You know, I jokingly tell you on Sunday morning, sometimes the shortest prayer in the world is "Hell's bells, all's well." You know, so do you think that prayer is not going to be answered? Yes. Yes, new title. There you go. Now, there may not be any awards or tiaras for the ministerial cause, but those who are religious scientists do live a free life of self-approval, and there is time for being in the now. The one thing I want to share today, above all else, is that our lives are not a theory. This isn't practice, folks. This is the reality. We are here to do and to be whatever it is that we need to be in order to have a relationship not only with ourselves but with other people, but first and foremost, a relationship with God. And when we have that relationship with God, everything else falls into place. It does in miraculous form. How we live our reality is contingent upon what practice we use to stay connected to Spirit, how we treat other people, when we speak up and when we keep quiet, what we say and what we don't say, and most importantly, are we here to encourage people or are we here to tear them down? That would be the big question. Again, if I have an underdeveloped God, I will have an experience of underdeveloped good in my life. When I am actively centered in truth and when I do my daily practice, when I'm kind and loving, when I am totally in service for all the right reasons, life is good and very good. And if we keep our eye on the form instead of the destination, our souls will wither and die. But if we keep our attention on the destination instead of the form, our souls will grow and flourish. So that's what I get about being here in the now, what that means at the highest and best for all of us, knowing that with God, all things are possible. Will you join me in consciousness, please? And so as we go within to that perfect place of peace, in this absolute moment of prayer, there is no past and there is no future. There is only the present moment. And in that present moment, I am miraculously and wonderfully connected to that pure essence of Spirit. That there is an idea whose time has come, and that idea is how I show up in my life. As I speak this truth in the first person today for all here present, I know that as I show up in my life in a bigger way, it is because I have chosen to give of myself in a way that maybe I've never done before. I extend myself in ways that nobody else knows about. I don't have to have anyone else know about because I live a free life of self-approval. There is nothing that I do today that seeks the approval of anyone else. And while I do know that appreciation is helpful, I do recognize that when I have the self-satisfaction of living my life to the fullest because it is the joy that I receive from doing this, I know that it is being here in the now, in the present moment. And so today I joyfully know that as I experience circumstances and situations in my life that may not be of the highest order, I know that I have the tools and the wisdom and the prayer and the meditation that brings me back to that truth of my being, that God is all there is. And in the present moment, that truly is what life is about. God is all there is. There is nothing outside this pure essence of Spirit. And so I move through whatever it is that I need to move through for my soul growth. I do not stay stuck in it. I move through it because going from here to there is always the order of business. Going from nowhere to now here is being in the present moment. And so I joyously receive and give thanks today for this opportunity to know my value and my worth is not contingent upon what anyone else says about me, whatever it is that I do for a living, or who I'm married to. It is just simply myself standing on my own, knowing that this is the greatest gift that I bring to this plane of consciousness. I release my word today, knowing that as I give it over to that great law of mind, it is done, it is complete, and together we say, and so it is. And Joanna